Friends, welcome back to the 15th episode of iPhone app creation tutorial. So far, we have learned a lot. In fact, we have a fully functional application. We are just going to go ahead and add some more functionality so that you can continue your learning process. So let's go ahead and open the Xcode, open book tracker tutorial, and let's quickly run it just to see what are functions we have already achieved. So if you recall, it takes a little bit time to get the first screen when you run it for the first time. So we had the display book, which shows books by the status. If it is reading, only the reading books you're reading comes here. If you click on to be read, the books you want to read later comes here, and books you have already read comes here, right? So we have done this. We know how to add a book. We go to add book, we can add, there are all conditions which we have validated to make sure we have the right book name. We have seen how to drop down table view, get values in, reset and save. And once you save it, it comes back in the right category based upon your status, read, currently reading, or to be read, right? What we want to do next is we want to add the remaining database functions to make our app more complete. For example, you see here you have given last scintilla twice. You want to delete one record. How do you do that? So deletion. Or for example, you have a book name not rightly giving the title name and you want to change the title, or you want to change the status from currently reading to already read, right? So you need to update, you want to delete. We will add those functionalities to showcase how you can add a fully functional app function to your book tutorial. Okay, so today the first thing we are going to learn is delete. So what we want to do, you must have seen apps where if you swipe right, you get a delete option. We'll do the same, and using that we'll try to delete the book if at all you want to, right? So go ahead and stop the application. If you recall, all of your book related operations are in display book view controller, and all of your add book is in add book view controller. And if you recall, there's a main storyboard with two screens and each has a view controller associated to it. So we have these two screens. You can see this one, which is your add book controller, and this one, which is what I showed you before, is a display book controller. We have to still do the third one, which is search. We'll do it later, but right now let's focus on this screen, which is the display book view controller, and go ahead and try to add the function. So how do you do a delete? So for doing delete, the table view itself offers you certain gestures and functions, and what we can do is we can use them to display certain values like delete to get our job done. So you already know your table views are all associated. You can see the delegate and the data source. You know that you have associated it, so you have all the table view functions. So just go ahead in the class and type editing style. Moment you type editing styles, down below you find a function for table view. Just go ahead and select that function and press enter. So if you see here, these are the values which comes in. It gives you the reference of the table view. If you have more than one table view, this is very useful to get a reference to that. It also tell you that what kind of editing style it is, right? So we will compare this editing style to find out what value it is showing, and if it by default gives a delete, we will use that to get a function done, which is the editing style. And then we have the index path, which will give you which row within your table you have swiped, so that it knows that which row the action has to be taken, right? So in the code here, what you do is you do a comparison. You say, computer, tell me what is the editing style. This is the editing style I'm checking. Okay, so you say editing style equals to and put a dot. It'll give you all the option. We want to check for delete, so we'll say delete. For now, let's quickly do just like we do try it out. We'll say print and delete, just to showcase that. In fact, instead of printing delete, I'll print the index path row number. So it'll print the row number of the index. In fact, if you want the book name, you know how to do it. You have your book in the book array, if I'm not wrong. Books is where you have all the books, right? So you say books index path dot row, and books is a class with different names. So this is your entity type and you want the book name. So right now what we'll do is if you get your editing style as delete, which we will get, and when it's displayed, what we'll do is we will print in that row. We'll not delete it, we'll just simply print it. You know this, it's saying that there may not be a value, hence I'm putting the exclamation mark to force print it, because I know there will be always a value whenever there will be a delete. So let's run this and see what happens here. Okay, so if you swipe right, there you go, you get the delete. Now if you click on delete, you get that book name. See last scintilla. Click on delete again, you get blink. So that's how it works. You can go to anyone and you can do the printing. Works perfect. Now if you do not want the delete to be in the red, how will you do that? That's an exercise I'll give you to do later on, but just check it out. You only want delete, let's say, for reading and to be read, not the books you've already read. You don't want to delete them, so you don't want to see this delete. So think about it, how I'll do it. We will talk about that in the next class, but for now let's move on and try to implement a delete function. So far we are in the area where we know which row is to be deleted. So all we need to do is we have to write a delete function now. So let's go ahead and write another function. For modularity standpoint, it's always good to write your own delete function. Let's say delete book, right? And this will accept a variable. Let's say we'll say row number, book location, which is the row number from the index path row. I'll say book location is of type integer. So whenever you have to call delete book, you have to give the location so I know which book to delete, right? Simple so far. And you know that if you put a underscore here, then I will show it to you, which I've shown you before as well. This label becomes optional. If you don't put, the label becomes mandatory, and I always like mandatory, so I'm going to keep it here. So you know that you need to delete the book from where? You have to delete the book from the entity, right? So how do you delete it from the entity? You know that you have to, for that you have to go and get handle of the entity. So you know how to do that. We'll define an app delegate variable. This again, as I told you before, could be any name, but for readability standpoint, I call it app delegate, and I say UI application dot share dot delegate, and I say this is of type, I'll force it to app delegate, right? Once you have done that, you get the context from your app delegate. So you say context equal to app delegate dot persistent container. Sorry, I always do that mistake. You have to do a small app delegate, the variable dot persistent container dot context, view context. Make sense so far? So once you have the context, what you need to do is you have to find which record you want to delete. So you have to do a query, and for query, you know what you need to do. Fetch request. Let's define a query variable fetch request, and we say that fetch request equals to, it's which book, which entity you want to fetch request from. The book entity, if you recall, that's the name you have given, and I'll show it in a little bit later. So you say fetch request equals to book in dot, you want to get a fetch request, and then you have to say this is of type as ns fetch request, and within open and close brackets you give the entity name. Okay, so this is entity. Just to remind you, you come here, this is the entity. If it is some other name, you have to give that name over there. Okay, so that's what you have done. And once you have done, if you don't put a condition, then it will get everything else. So we need to put a condition as well. So you know that condition you need to put using predicate. So predicate allows you to get condition. Recall we did that for getting our books reading or currently reading or read. So the same thing over here, we'll say predicate equals to ns predicate, right? And ns predicate takes the format and the argument. So we'll say format, and the argument is what? We'll say wherever book name, right, is equal to, there is a problem to this, but I'll explain to you later on. But for now, if you come here, I'll say whenever the book name is equal to the current row book name, delete that, right? And so you'll say book name equals to, when you want to replace it with a value, which is percentage ampersand, and the value is, you know what value it is. You get the location integer, is you have everything in the books variable, say books index path, oh sorry, book location. That is how you get the index path, and you say book name. So in other words, whenever you click on the delete, this function will be called from here. So let's call that function, say delete book, and we will pass the location, which is index path dot row. So it will know. Let's see, you click on the second row, it will say, you know, it starts with 0, so it will say 1, and it'll say get me the book from the location 1. If it is equal to that whatever book name, get me that record, right? That's how it is going to happen. Okay, so SCVR, that's fine. So this is of the type argument, so that's why it's saying this. So now, you know, all these warnings are coming because we have not used, you have defined the variable, not used it. So as soon as you start using it, it will be all fine. So first we'll say that the fetch request that I have defined, the predicate equals to the predicate I have defined, which is this. So fetch request error will be gone. Okay, let's fix this. Okay, all right. So then once the fetch request is gone, then what we need to do next is we have to get all the books. So we'll get a books in a variable. So we'll say variable temp books, just to it is all temporary books or books for delete. That's much easier, books to delete. Okay, so books to delete, this is a variable I've defined, and books to delete is of type your entity, which is book, and this is an array. This is how you basically do it. The array is within the braces, and this open and close brackets tells you that this is of type entity. Okay, all right. So once you have done that, what you need to do, you have done the query before, so you have to do the query. You do the query using the do, try, catch loop, right? So do first, then you say try. What do you want to try? From the context that you have already defined, which is the context, you'll say first you fetch me the request, right? So fetch request, and what is a fetch request? You define it in fetch request. You know, the try always will do what? Try will always throw, right? So what I'll do is I'll say whatever you're going to throw, I'm going to catch it, and you can either say let error, or you can define the error also. So let error like this, and you can print that error. There's an error, or you can say catch, and you can then print the error also. Both way you can do. Okay, all right. So you have defined and you have printed it now. So what you're doing is you will get all the try catch within a variable. So you have to say whatever result you're getting, it should be in books.delete, right? I missed that part. So whatever you're fetching, you have to put it in the variable that you have defined. Okay, there's only one warning left. It's saying variable you have written to but never used, which is perfect. We have written to it, now you're going to use it. So what you're going to do, all the books which will have the name of that particular row, Blink or Last Scintilla, will be here. Once you have them, you want to do what? You want to delete it. There may be more than one books. So what do you do that? So to do that, you'll say for books, book in books, so books to delete. So you want to get all the book. It could be any variable. I'm giving the name book for readability standpoint. And as you get them, all you got to do is say from this context object, delete that object. And which is the object? The book object. It will have all the entire entity record will be here, and you delete it. So if there are more than one books with the same name, it will delete that, right? And once it is done, then what you do, you have to, this deletion is also required to be saved, because after deletion you'll say please save my context. So you have to do once again, and then you have to, you know, how to do try. So I have deleted it. Now please save the object to make sure that everything is saved. It will throw it, and that you know that you can catch let error, and you can say print error. Excellent, right? So you have done this. So it will delete the book, and once it is deletion is done, it will come back here, right? And it should do the job. Will it? Let's try to see and run this program to see where we are. Okay, so run this. Okay, I do delete. So look here, there are two book named La Scintilla, right? So I say delete. What happened? The record didn't go away. Let's stop the program and run it once again. The record was deleted. Not only that, it deleted the other record as well. Okay, so that has given us two problems. The first problem is the view is not getting refreshed, right? So though it is deleted, the record is not getting. Why? Because if you see here in your delete, all you're doing is a printing, which is not required anymore now. So you say you delete the book, it deletes it, but it does not refresh the table. That's the problem number one. Problem number two is a bigger problem, that if the book name is same, it is deleting both the record, because it's going by the book name. It found two books that has gone away. Okay. So there are two problems that we need to solve. A, how to only delete one record, and if they are book with the same name, don't delete them, because they may be same book with different order. Very highly unlikely, but there could be a possibility, right? And you don't want to delete them accordingly. Okay. And second is how to refresh it. Okay, so I will stop this here, and I'm going to record another quick video to showcase that to you. But in the meantime, why don't you try to solve both the problem? I think the second problem is a little hard. We will talk about it later, but why don't you try to see that how to ensure that the view is refreshed when you delete something. Okay, so with that, I will leave you there. Thank you for going through the tutorial. Please do subscribe to my channel. That's the only way you can get updates to all the new videos I put out. Take care. Bye.